from the facts turns our children into idiots. They claim it's for our safety. I'll tell you what it really is. Removing information that empowers all the citizens. The truth doesn't damage points of view that are legitimate. They're trying to change amen to amen and win.
Hi everyone, I know I'm not Dion, I'm Liz, his wife, Liz Bergeron, candidate for County Commissioner. It is so exciting who we have on the show today. We have the candidate, one of the Republican candidates for County Sheriff, Ron Heeg is on the show tonight. It's gonna be a great show. We're doing something a little bit different tonight and for a couple more shows, so they could get right into the interview and you can learn all there is to know about Ron, where he stands, his platform, all that good stuff. I'm going to read the bio. So once we're done, I'll lead it up to them and they can take off running with the show. So here's the bio that Ron sent in. A life Porte County resident, Ron has been with the Sheriff's Office for 25 years, where he currently holds the position of Chief Deputy. He was a member of the Dive and Rescue Team, the Emergency Response Team, and served as a field training officer. Ron attended Indiana University South Bend and earned an associate's degree in criminal justice. He is also a graduate of the Indiana Law Enforcement Academy, Leadership LaPorte County, and he is a graduate of the University of Louisville's Southern Police Institute. He serves on the board of directors for Grand Heritage Federal Credit Union, Indiana Department of Homeland Security, District 1 Task Force, LaPorte County Triad, and Stepping Stone Shelter for Women. He hosts a monthly radio show on WIMS AM 1420 called Chief's Chatter. Ron's wife, Heather, is a nurse at Franciscan Health, Michigan City, and they have two daughters, Olivia, 12, and Allison, 10. So now, without further ado, we're going to take it over to Dion and Sheriff candidate Ron Heeg. Gentlemen.
Yeah, it kind of worked. All right. We're still working on it. All right. So should I call you Chief Deputy Heeg or can I just call you Ron?
Ron works perfect for me. You're going to get that I'm not all about titles or anything like that. I'm a no thrill type of guy. I'm very
Awesome.
I'm
Okay.
recently referred to as an old soul. So
Fantastic. Okay, everybody, welcome to the show. Thanks for joining us tonight. I know it's Dingus Day. Many of you might be wanting to go out there and drink. Do not drink and drive. You can tell you, call a cab, get an Uber. Seriously.
designated driver in today's day and age with cell phones and text messaging and Ubers and Lyfts, there's no reason for it.
Right. And I agree. So this is normally the time that I let Ron read his own bio, but that's already been done. But what I would like to do, we have someone that says your mic is very crackly sounding. So let's try to get that fixed real quick.
Let's hope. Is this any better? Does this seem to be helping or
no?
Hopefully.
Hold on. Let's see. Let me see if I can do anything about it. Thanks for letting us know, Paul. Let me try to turn off echo cancellation. Let's see. Does that help? Can you talk?
Does that work? Does that work better? Or is that work?
There we
better?
go. Perfect.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. I was picking up a little of that on my end, but I wasn't sure if it was just me. Paul, can you let me know if everything sounds better on your end when he gets to it? There we go. Excellent. All right. Yeah, he says we're good. Okay, so I'm gonna turn the floor over to Ron, and he's gonna let you know who he is and why he believes he's your only choice for LaPorte County Sheriff.
Great. Thank you, Dion, for having me here tonight and allowing me this opportunity to present my forum, my platform, and just basically let people know who I am. As stated in the bio, I'm a lifelong LaPorte Countyan. I grew up in Springfield Township, and I spent many years in Springfield Township until I met my current wife, Heather. I've been with the Sheriff's Office for 25 years. I started there right after I got out of college at Indiana University of South Bend. I did do an internship while I was at IUSB at the Sheriff's Office, and the day I graduated took my last class there at IUSB before I graduated, I walked into the office and I was kind of working part-time, and the sheriff then pulled me into his office and he said, well, I understand today's your last day. And, being a young, naive, what I'll call kid, because I was 20 years old then. And then you can work at the sheriff's office at the age of 20 at the discretion of the sheriff. Usually it's 21 years of age, but I was 20. And because I did my internship there and I was working part-time and I was there and I started working there at the age of 20. And again, the sheriff says, I understand today's your last day. And I said, well, I was hoping my career at the sheriff's office would be longer than this, but you're the sheriff. If today's my last day here, I guess so. And he says, no uncertain words, says, no, dumbass. Today was your last day at class, at taking classes. And I said, oh, yeah, absolutely. And he says, good, you start full-time tomorrow. And I've literally been there ever since. I'm 45 years of age, 25-year veteran of the sheriff's office. So I've been at the sheriff's office longer than half my life. And that's something that's very dear to me in my profession and me personally and professionally. Again, I started working off in the jail division. I spent about a year and a half in the jail, got promoted to the road, became a patrolman, attended the 139th class of the Indiana Law Enforcement Academy. Spent about 10 years as a patrolman working the streets. Decided I was looking for something a little bit more than just being a patrolman, so I became a detective. Spent 4 years as a detective, in which I investigated primarily crimes, which we divide them up: crimes against person, crimes against property. I was a crimes against person guy. Okay. Investigated robberies, sex offense, rapes, child abuse, child neglect cases. Did that for about 4 years.
So the really bad stuff.
The really bad stuff.
Yeah.
Liz had made mention that I'm a graduate of the University of Louisville Southern Police Institute leadership course, sex crimes investigation course, and their homicide investigation course. And those 3 courses are some of the most world-renowned courses, and people come from all over the world to study there and take these law enforcement classes. It's very respected classes and courses that I took down at the University of Louisville. So I did that for about 4 years, got promoted to sergeant, had to go back out to the streets as a supervisor, as a new sergeant, did that for 2 years. The sheriff then at that time was Sheriff Mollenauer, come to me and says, I want you to go back down to the Detective Bureau as the Assistant Chief of Detectives. I spent 2 years there. Sheriff Boyd was ultimately elected sheriff in 2015, and he appointed me to serve as his chief deputy, a position that I've been there for the last 7.5 years. So that kind of expands on my career. Again, I did serve 15 years on the emergency response team, or another acronym, ERT, or another way to say SWAT team. Yeah. The last 4 of those years, I was the team commander, commanding and leading a group of 12 other individuals on the SWAT team. Spent 15 years on the dive and rescue team, and then again, I was a field training officer early on in my career when I was a patrolman. Married to my beautiful wife, Heather, again, nurse with Franciscan Michigan City, and we got 2 beautiful daughters, Olivia and Allison. I do have a twin brother. He's a police officer down in Noblesville.
Oh, wow. Okay. So not local.
Not local, Noblesville. Okay. And he's only been a police officer for about 15 years. Okay. He visited one night, wanted to do a ride along with me after I'd been working the streets for a while. And he was hooked. And again, he's been down there as a day shift sergeant down with the city of Noblesville. So
nice. Okay. So we're going to get into the questions, but I just want to say, for me personally, hearing about your experience and all the things that you've done across the department, that's extremely impressive. Like, I don't know much about sheriff candidates' resumes there. But just listening to all the wealth of experience that you have in the various departments, that's extremely impressive. And it's something that I myself, as a voter, that's what I care about. We're going to get into questions and we're going to get into issues. Mm-hmm. But how long has somebody been doing what they've been doing? How many different departments have they been in charge of, or at least been involved with, is kind of important, because the sheriff's department is much bigger and handles a lot more things than I think a lot of people realize, and we'll get to that.
Absolutely, and that's a great
Yeah.
point. And you said we'll get to it. Otherwise, I'll be glad to expunge on that right now and go into some of the different things that the sheriff's office does and handles that is completely different from like a city police department or a municipal police department. And that is, the sheriff is.
Wait, hold on, let me stop you real quick.
Okay.
We got some mic crackle again. Not because I'm not interested, but the mic is. I'm trying to fix it, people. I'm sorry. Let me try.
It could be me. It could be operator error on my end.
No, I've had some issues with the streaming on this just in the last couple of shows. Personally, I think there was an update that they did, and it kind of messed with stuff. But I turned off automatic mic volume, and I'm hoping that will. The last time I changed the mic settings, it seemed to help. So I'm gonna do it again and hope for the best.
Okay.
But yeah, there are a lot of things that the sheriff's department are involved in that most people have no idea. And I do have a specific question for that. But we're going to start with, and you just kind of answered your own question, but I'm curious, how has your experience, and you do have a wealth of experience. You've been doing what you do for a long time. How has it prepared you to run the sheriff's department?
Well, that's a great question, and I think it's prepared me very well, especially these last 7.5 years serving as Sheriff Boyd's chief deputy. I've had a great mentor and a great teacher with him, the chief deputy. I don't know if everybody knows, but that's like the second command. It's the sheriff and the chief deputy. So I'm his right hand man. My responsibility is to run the day-to-day operations of the sheriff's office and oversee. We spend about $12 million of LaPorte County taxpayers' dollars a year, and the key is to do it as efficient and as responsible as possible. I'm a taxpayer of LaPorte County. My wife is.
Right.
So we're
Absolutely.
trying to do that as efficient and responsible as possible. So.
Yeah, and I think that's key, because we can have millions of dollars, and we do, like you said, $12 million a year.
It's a lot of money.
It's a lot of money that our taxes are used for. But at the same time, you hear these different departments across the country that have these massive budgets in inner cities, and they're constantly saying, we don't have enough. We don't have enough. So it's this fine balancing act to use what you're given in the best way possible. And obviously, all of us would love to give much more money to the sheriff's department, to our local police departments, at least Republicans, let's be honest, without increasing the tax burden on the citizens. We'd love that. We believe in law enforcement. I'm former law enforcement. I'm the redheaded stepchild of law enforcement, but I'm still former law enforcement.
You're still part of the family.
Right.
Yeah.
The black sheep, as it were. But no, it's a really good thing that I don't hear a lot of candidates talk about, and that is the effective use of funds. I think it's huge, and I think that your experience has put you in probably the best, if not one of the best positions, to understand the day-to-day operations of the sheriff's department and see like where is that money going.
Right. And
have no idea.
I'd love to give you an example of something.
Please.
And please excuse me. I'm a guy that I'm standing.
You're fine.
I talk with my hands. You guys have seen me talk before.
Yeah.
I just don't sit still. So excuse me if I pop out of frame or whatever.
Fine.
I haven't left you guys. But
Yeah.
A prime example, and just one example of things why I did when I was chief deputy. I got thinking, because we had gotten our feel for our patrol cars at one specific location in LaPorte. And I got thinking one day, how much gas are we wasting just to drive into town to get gas?
It's a good question.
How many gallons of gas are we wasting just to come in to get? You get a guy who lives in Michigan City. You get a guy that lives in Union Mills. You get a guy that lives in Hudson Lake. He's got to drive into LaPorte to get gas. That's 10 miles one way. And then if he's working in that district, he's got to drive back to his district. So he's basically driven 20 miles just to come get gas. And I don't know if you guys have been in on Lincoln Way and Pine Lake Ave on a Friday night. It's not that easy just to come in and get gas.
No,
So
there's
I
a lot of
got thinking, okay, how much gas are we actually wasting here just to come in and get gas? That's very inefficient.
Mhm.
And one thing I've learned with county government in my position as being chief deputy, it's just not county government. Government is very slow and very inefficient. I'm sure there's probably some reasons, some checks and balances to that, as to why that is. But I got thinking, and I said, okay, on any given day, any 24-hour cycle, midnight to midnight, with all 3 shifts, we probably got from 20 to 25 patrol cars out in those 24 hours. That's not including us administrators. That's
Right.
not including any of the detectives. That's not including any of the warrant division or any of the extra overtime details such as DUI task force and stuff like that. And I said, if we can just save 1 gallon per patrol car a day, 20 to 25 gallons, for 7 days a week, 365 days a year, we could save $25,000, and that's about 10% of our annual fuel budget. So we can save 10% out of our annual fuel budget if we went to like a Family Express fleet card. You know, there's Family Expresses all over. Let's give these guys a Family Express fleet card. They can stop at any Family Express, fuel up their patrol car. They don't have to drive into downtown LaPorte, fight with the traffic to get back out. And that just makes things so efficient, and it saves us 10% of our fuel budget every year. That's part of who I am. I'm very efficient and try to find out the things that how can we make things better and more efficient, saving the taxpayers' dollars in the long run.
That's the kind of thing that I'm talking about. It's things like that I want to hear from people that are running for office. What did you do? Like, what's going to translate? That's something that directly translates to the position that you're running for, because it's that kind of, I hesitate to use the word oversight, but it really is the kind of accountability and oversight that we're looking for, because I want to know that my tax dollars are being used as wisely as possible. Yep. I absolutely support the department, but if we can save $25,000, then we should absolutely do so. It's simple, really. You know, a fleet card solves so many things and saves the taxpayers money at the same time. I'm all for it. That's what I'm talking about. So obviously, you've been with Sheriff's Department for quite a while. You've done all kinds of different things. And there was a little bit in your bio, but how, like, your name is widely known throughout the community. When I was talking about like this race in particular and my race, I've talked to people from other counties. I've talked to people across LaPorte County, and I mentioned your name and they immediately know who you are. So obviously, yes, with the Sheriff's Department, but how else are you involved in the community? Because not just that your time at the Sheriff's Department doesn't explain how so many people know who you are.
Yeah, no, you're right. I've always taken an active interest into the community. You know, when you're just a young new patrolman, you don't think about that. You just want to go out and write speeding tickets, arrest people, take people to jail, and you think you're making your community better by doing that. To a point,
you are. Bad guys off the street. Right?
Yeah, taking the bad guys off the street. But you know, as you get a little bit older, a little more wiser, a little more mature, you realize there's more to that and being involved in your community. So that's exactly what I've done. I've got active in the community. Liz had said I serve as on the board of directors for Grand Heritage Federal Credit Union. I'm honored that fellow directors 6 years ago voted me to serve as the president of the board of directors.
Wow!
I serve on the president. I also serve as president of the board of directors for Stepping Stone Women's Shelter in Michigan City,
which is a fantastic resource.
It's a fantastic resource. Yeah. I serve as vice president of the board of directors for LaPorte County Triad. It's a kind of a conglomerate between law enforcement, senior citizens, and healthcare provider for the senior citizens to provide for senior citizens. And that I serve on the District 1 Task Force Advisory Board member. So I'm involved. I'm just more than just going to the sheriff's office and put my 8 to 10 hours in a day. I'm just active in the community and try to do it. And it's all about improving the quality of life for everybody in LaPorte County. And I've said this before. when my day is done here at the LaPorte County Sheriff's Office, LaPorte County government, or even in LaPorte County, I want to be able to turn it over to the next generation in better shape than it was given to me. And I want to improve the quality of life. Why? Because I live in LaPorte County. My wife and daughters live in LaPorte County. They go to school in LaPorte County. We shop in LaPorte County. We dine out in LaPorte County. So why would I not want LaPorte County to be a better place for me and my family? So that there's a vested personal interest in there, and that's why I try to stay active, involved, and to make things better for everybody.
Okay, all right. Hats off to you, because I know working at the sheriff's department, whether it's deputy, chief deputy, or whether it's a patrol officer, that's a lot of time. It's a full time gig, beyond full time.
It's beyond full time, but I've got a great support system. My wife has been I'm beyond lucky to have her support, her blessing, and everything else with this task that I'm on journey, I should say, that I'm on right now.
Awesome. Yeah, you gotta have family support to
you and Liz know that more than anybody.
Yeah. So I'm going to give you a couple of rapid fire questions. These are non-political in nature. Probably have nothing to do with the office you're running for, but nonetheless, viewers care. How do you like your steak?
Medium rare.
Thank you. Oh my God, what is it with people?
That is the only way to eat a steak.
Yes,
medium rare.
Yes, thank you. Cats or dogs?
Well, we've got both in the household, so I'm going to have to say both.
Okay, that's an acceptable answer. All right, we'll come back to some more of those, but okay. So I've said this before on the wording of the show, but I truly believe that the sheriff's office is the single most important position in LaPorte County. It is the constitutional head of the county, as it were. It's our stopgap against overreaching government.
Absolutely, it is.
So it's critically important that we elect the right person for this position. What is a common misconception that people have about the sheriff's department, the sheriff himself, the deputies, or the department?
I just don't think that they quite understand everything that the sheriff is tasked with, and they don't understand that that police officers truly care about their community, and police officers, and I know myself, we take it personal when we see a victim of a crime and somebody's out there doing something. Again, like I said a few minutes ago, we all live in LaPorte County. We all live in the communities that we police. So we take a very personal interest. I mean, there's nothing worse when I go in the morning and review the reports and go over the stuff to see this happened overnight, or to see that this person was a victim of a shooting or a stabbing or a robbery, innocent victims. That just it's stressful. You don't want to see that. So, but you're right. The office of sheriff is very important. It's a constitutional office, and we swear to uphold the Constitution of the United States. And I've said this before: the sheriff needs to uphold the Constitution of the United States and the state of Indiana, and should not pander to the political climate that we see out in Washington, D.C., because that changes daily out there. I think we all can agree. D.C. is just a complete mess. It's a disaster. So let's focus on what we need to focus here, because how truly does Washington, D.C. know what's going on in LaPorte County and with LaPorte County people? They don't.
Not at all. Yeah, not at all. It's a completely different world. And it doesn't matter left, right, center. We have to focus on LaPorte County, because this is where we live. And I think
if we don't, nobody will.
Exactly. So I agree. So I'm going to let you jump off of this question. The one that before we got messed up with the mic, what's something that the sheriff's department handles that most people don't know that the sheriff's department is a part of?
Yeah, that's.
Oh, hold on. Your audio just cut out. Hold on. Okay. Yeah. Your mic, I think it might've came unplugged. Check it. It's got muted.
Can you hear me now?
There we go. Yep.
Okay, there we go. I had an incoming phone call, and it's connected all and so I tried to
Gotcha.
swipe it and send that to voicemail. So
No
yeah,
worries.
the sheriff's office is very different, although similar. It's very different to like our municipal police departments or city police department,
Mhm.
and that's because the sheriff is by law tasked with operating and maintaining the county jail. Your city police departments don't have the jail basically, and we're required to bring in all inmates and all arrested and processing them through the county jail. And the county jail is a very expensive part of the puzzle. And that's because there's a lot of laws and regulations and Supreme Court rulings that dictate how we have to handle these arrested people, these prisoners, these inmates, and how you feed them, how you clothe them, how you bathe them, the medical care you have to provide them. It's not like Barney Fife where you go in there and you can just lay down on a cot or get a bologna sandwich. There's much more to it. We have to have a dietitian that comes in twice a year, reviews our menus, reviews the caloric intakes that each inmate gets. And then there's special diets, whether it's religious needs or medical or healthcare needs. There's special diets we got to tend to. So it's not just giving everybody a bologna and cheese sandwich and saying, there you go.
Right.
So there's a lot that goes involved with all of this. And then the second biggest thing would be the sheriff's civil office. The sheriff is tasked with serving all court paperwork and all orders that come out of the 5 LaPorte County courts, whether it be circuit court or the 4 superior courts. The sheriff is tasked by law and by statute to serve every single order that comes out of those courts. So that keeps us busy as well, too.
Right. A lot of people don't realize how heavily regulated prisoner care is. There are a whole list of things that you have to do to make sure that you're following these regulations. Like you said, these Supreme Court decisions, there's a huge amount involved in it.
Yeah.
Okay, so right now the big thing in LaPorte County is this lit tax. That's what everybody's talking about. It's going to come to a vote here, hopefully before the primary. That's kind of what is talked about. I know there's another public comment. Obviously, I think everybody knows that you're in favor of the lit tax, right? What would that mean for the sheriff's department?
Right. And yeah, I'm absolutely in favor. And I don't like to use the word tax. I don't think anybody running for public office or anybody wants to use the word tax.
Right.
I don't want to pay any more taxes, but I don't look at this as a tax. I look at this as a truly investment into LaPorte County, emergency services. It's needed. One who's been on county government for 25 years, and I've been in charge of a budget for 12 years. This is sorely and desperate needed to help our first responders and our emergency personnel. I look at it more as an investment. And again, when my days are done here, when I go to turn it over to the next generation, too often we see in county government, the politicians want to kick the can down the road because they're not worried about 10, 20, 30, 40 years down the road. They're worried about 2, 4, 6 years down the road, every election cycle. So they're looking short term. They're not looking long term. I think that's reckless and irresponsible to look short term. We've got to look long term and start planning now for future projects, because investing a little money now saves money in the long run. The old saying, it takes money to make money. Let's spend some money now to save money on the long end versus kick that can down the road. And then we're tasked and then we're forced to do something about it. And then they're going to tell you how to do it. And that's, the county jail now, when it was added on to and remodeled, that's basically what happened. The federal courts came in and says, okay, you waited too long. We're going to tell you how to do it now. And you got to pay it. There is no, well, we can't afford it. No, it's too little too late now, because you guys waited so long. Let's invest a little money now, and it will help out so much in the long run. And that's what I think this lit tax is. And everybody talks about this lit tax as going, oh, it's just for your guys' salaries and wages. Well, it can go towards salaries and wages. And I think we've demonstrated that our salaries and wages in LaPorte County are very subpar and you don't have to go far. And I'm not saying that we're comparing ourselves with like a Hamilton County
Right.
down in Indianapolis. Absolutely not.
Yeah.
I can go South Bend, Mishawaka, Warsaw. To the east of us, I can go to the west of us with Valpo, Portage, Porter, Crown Point, Hammond, and those guys, from our starting salary to their starting salary, they can go to any one of those departments I just said and start making anywhere from about $15,000 to $20,000 more a year. So how do I tell a 21-year-old guy or gal that's interested in the career of law enforcement, come work for the sheriff's office? We're going to pay you $15,000 less than this department just 20 minutes away.
Right. Right. And
how do we sell that?
There is, I live close to Trail Creek, and this isn't a bash on anyone. It's just reality. I have seen a couple of cars close to me from departments in Porter County.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Now, these people would love to work here, but they, like you said, they can make significant. This isn't, enough to supersize your meal. $15,000 a year is a lot of money.
Is a lot of money.
That's a lot of money.
And so that's the lit tax will help us come up to par. And I had a gentleman ask me, well, why are you guys always trying to be better? And I said, we're not trying to be better. We're just trying to be comparable and competitive. And, again, this lit tax just isn't all about salaries and wages. This lit tax can go toward the purchase of new patrol cars. It can go toward the fuel. I talked about our fuel budget. It can go toward that. Feeding the inmates, food for the inmates. Everybody's been to the supermarket lately. What's the price of food done up in the last 6 months? Gas prices, same thing. Those same things affect the sheriff's office. Although we don't pay taxes on our fuel that we buy, if it goes up, we're still paying the increased cost.
Right.
We have to buy food for the inmates. Same thing. Fuel or food prices go up, it affects the sheriff's office as a whole too. So there's just so much more that the slit tax can be used for, and can be really good to help subsidize these increased costs that we're seeing. New fire trucks, new ambulances, this Roland Prairie EMS base that's been desperately needed in Roland Prairie for the last 30 years.
Oh yeah,
we're just finally seeing it come to fruition, and this lit tax can help support that cause, and just a lot of good can come out of it. So that's why I support it, and I. Here's the deal. I know, being a candidate for office and saying I support a tax, and I don't like to use the word tax. Yeah. It's not a good thing. And I had somebody pull me aside and said, "Wait a minute, you call yourself a Republican and you support this tax?" Absolutely, I do, because it's not about Republican or Democrat. It's about what's the best thing for the citizens of LaPorte County. And I know in my heart that this tax investment is the best thing for LaPorte County, and that's why I support it.
So I'm going to say this, and this is just my personal feeling on it. I have consistently, when running and when talking about taxes, I'm generally against taxes. Period.
I think we all are. Yeah.
But in this case, I do believe that if there was a way, at least for me, if there was a way to make sure it went to what we need it for, not just salaries, but equipment, improvements, and we could lock that in, I'd be all for it. The problem is politically, you have anytime they do something, obviously it can be overturned at when new candidates come in, and then it's The short version is, I am all for more pay. We have to. It's not even a would be nice anymore. We're going to have to raise the pay for our first responders, or we're not going to have employees.
Well, you're absolutely right, and LaPorte County is unique, Dion, in that when I first started, the sheriff's office was very competitive and very comparable with those agencies I described earlier.
Right.
But what we saw about 15 years ago, LaPorte County got into a property tax issue in which the county was sued, and the county collected no money forever. And over the years during that lawsuit and tax mess debacle, we continuously saw our wages get separated more and more because we weren't getting raises. Every year the council would say, we don't have money, we're not collecting property taxes, we can't give you guys raises. So we really fell behind the 8 ball on that, and they've been trying to slowly creep us up, but we can't do it with just what we got in our pockets right now. So yeah,
I agree. There have to be changes. So what would you change about the current department, and what are you most proud of?
What I would change currently about the department, I think that we need to take more of a proactive stance with community involvement. You know, as one that has kind of studied stuff that went on in Ferguson and some of these other communities that we saw, you know, Minneapolis, and that those issues were caused with a lot of mistrust with the communities. And we hear that, you know, help support your police department and invest in the sheriff's office, support your community. Well, it's a two-way street. We need to invest in our communities just as our communities are investing with us. So I think we need to do a much better job of just some proactive community involvement, building those trusts, building those relationships, and that helps go a long way. When you have issues in your communities, they're not so quick to jump to conclusions. They're not so quick to protest. They're not so quick to jump to some of these other things that we've seen in some of these communities. And reading some of the Department of Justice reports, like in Minneapolis, in Ferguson, it was just that was the tipping point. That was the boiling point, that there was just a lot of mistrust. There was a lot of issues going on in these communities. It just, the Ferguson and Minneapolis just didn't happen over that one incident. It was incident after incident after incident after incident, where it finally was the tipping point in which caused these problems. So we just good community relations. And you know, I'm a guy, I would rather come and talk to you face to face than talk to you over the phone or shoot you a text message. I'm old school like that. That's me. I think we can have a much more productive conversation face to face, because a lot of things are lost in translation with text messages or emails. It's like, well, that kind of sounded funny, or that sounded snippy, or that just, when that's not the case. So a lot gets lost in translation with that. I know I went on a little bit, and I think you had a second part to that question about what I would change. That's one of them. What was the second part of that, Dion?
What are you most proud of about the department currently?
I'm most proud that I think we've got us a very good professional group of young, and I say young men and women on the department. When I first started 25 years ago, I came in at the age of 20, 21 years of age, and I by far was young. And I was, you know, some of the old timers on the department would say, well, I started working here at the sheriff's office before you were even born. And they're right. They were, you know, we've seen a transition, not just at the sheriff's office, but nationwide, a transition with a new generation of police officers coming in. And we're a very young department as well, too. So, and we just got a good group of motivated, professional young men and women that I feel confident in their abilities and the job that they do. They do a phenomenal job. I couldn't be more proud of the men and women of the sheriff's office. And I've said this before. It's not me as the chief deputy, or it's not the sheriff that makes the department. It's the men and women. They make us look good because they truly do a good job day in, day out, every day. So that's what I'm proud of.
So I will say this. I was an over the road truck driver for 10 years. I've been to all 48 of the contiguous United States. I've lived in all kinds of places, including Louisiana, Alabama. And I will say that when I was a teenager, especially 18, 19 area, I had some interactions with sheriff's departments that were not, let's just say I wasn't on the law enforcement side. Since moving up here at 10 years old, I've lived all over for short periods. I have never met a more professional sheriff's department.
Yeah.
And again, I have experience with sheriff's departments around the country. So I wholeheartedly agree with what you're saying. The people themselves make the department
Absolutely.
incredible.
Now, with that being said, do we have our faults
Well,
and do
sure.
we have our issues? Absolutely. We're human just like everybody else.
Yep.
We're going to make mistakes. We're going to stumble along the way. We all do. Every profession. I don't care if you're a doctor, a lawyer, a mechanic,
Mhm.
or whatever. They all make mistakes and we stumble.
Yeah,
Let's
of
learn
course.
from them. Let's learn from our mistakes and to prevent it from happening again and to grow as a person and as a profession to make sure
Oh,
that
yeah.
we don't make those same mistakes again.
So I have a controversial question for you.
Okay.
Currently, there is no speed enforcement because it was voted against. Do you support camera enforcement? Those speed cameras that they have? Okay. Why?
I
Why
don't.
or why not?
That's again. Like I said, I'd rather talk to you face to face than over the phone.
Yep.
It's very impersonal, and law enforcement should not be in the business to generate revenue or to make money. And I feel
Okay.
that's what those cameras are, is more of a generating revenue, generating business than anything. I
Right.
like to have the officer make the traffic stop and use discretion versus just sending Dion a ticket in the mail saying, pay this because we got your car on camera. You know, the officer can make physical contact with Dion. And, you know, Dion's having a bad day. He just made a mistake. Dion, here's a warning ticket.
Mhm.
And by having the officer make the traffic enforcement, there's that discretion there. And that's why I truly don't like the use of cameras and would rather have just enforcement, person-to-person contact.
So I'm so glad that you feel that way. It's been a concern of mine because I feel the same way you do. There have been days that, you know, I've gotten pulled over and I was going a little fast and I admitted to the officer that came up and he's like, all right, well, like, what's going on? And we talked for a moment and I got a warning and I didn't speed again for a long, long time.
Right. And again, we all make mistakes. We're all having a busy day. We've got a lot going on upstairs. You're thinking about work. You're thinking about dinner with the family, spending time with the families. You got to take the kids to piano practice, to wrestling practice, to this going on. You may run through that stop sign. That's just being human. That's just, you know, I don't care if you're the car mechanic or a lawyer or whatever. We all have stressors in our life, and it just causes us to have a brain fart moment. And
Right. Right.
so I think that's why I like to see that human interaction versus just you all of a sudden receiving a ticket in the mail because you ran the stop sign. It happens.
Yeah.
And that I don't like that. That's
Okay. So
it's impersonal.
What is the current shift structure? Is it like 12-hour shifts? Is it 8-hour shifts currently?
Right. Our guys work 8-hour shifts and they work a 4-day on, 2-day off rotation because, again, we're not a Monday through Friday, 5-day-a-week operation. We're a 24/7, 7-day-a-week, 365 operation. We've got 3 shifts. We've got a day shift, afternoon shift, and a midnight shift.
Okay.
The day shift has 13 officers on it. The afternoon shift has 15 officers. When we're full strength, we're down a couple guys now. And then the midnight shift will have 13 guys on it. The afternoon shift has more guys on it because it's the busiest shift. On those 3 shifts, each shift has 3 rotations. The 13 guys are divided into 3 rotations. So you always got guys on 7 days a week, 365 days a year. So we do have a 6-car minimum on the shift.
Okay.
There's no fewer than 6 cars on the shift. So we do have a 6-car minimum that we require to have on the shift. That's not enough, but we work with what's given to us.
Right.
So
Right. Well,
we do require minimums.
Yeah, the unfortunate reality, and it's the same at Indiana State Prison when I worked there. There were required minimums, like you had to have these 2 officers. Did you need more? Absolutely. But
Absolutely.
there have to be required minimums. The more, the more the better. So are you happy with the way that the shifts currently are, or do you plan on changing things once elected?
You know, that's a good question. And I worked a when I was a patrolman years ago, when I first started, we actually rotated from a day shift, afternoon shift to a midnight shift every month. Every first of the month, we would rotate. And I was with a group of guys that we politicked hard to go to permanent shifts because that rotating shift is stressful and it's hard on the body.
Swing shifts are horrible.
Swing shifts are absolutely horrible. So when Sheriff Mollenauer was elected at that point in time, he says, okay, I'll let you guys go to permanent shifts. But then that's when I moved to the detective bureau. So I never really got to work shifts.
You never really got to enjoy the thing that you put passion into getting fixed, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So, and then it was a couple of years ago, there was a group of guys that came to me and asked maybe about the possibility of going to 12-hour shifts in the patrol division. And my brother, who I mentioned earlier, works 12-hour shifts down in Noblesville and absolutely raves about them and loves them and says, we had some guys who went to 12-hour shifts kicking and screaming. But once they did them, they love them now. And it's the best thing. And there was a group of guys that says, hey, can we see about the possibility of going to 12-hour shifts? And I says, absolutely. In my position, I'm not going to work 12-hour shifts. If that's what you guys want to do, and if that's what the majority of the men and women in the patrol division want to do, then you guys can go to them. Okay. And I says, what I want you to do is I want you to put a committee together. I want you to put the pros and cons out of each. I want you to explain how 12-hour shifts works versus the 8-hour shifts and everything. And let's put an informed ballot, so to speak, out there. And I says, and we'll take a vote. And if the majority of the men and women want to go to 12-hour shifts, then that's what we do. Well, it failed miserably.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
okay.
the guys and the gals and the patrol division.
They were like, we like our 8s. Thank you.
They like their 8 hours. With that being said, sometimes as one that spent many of times in the patrol car, 8 hours can seem like a long time, let alone have to do an additional 12. So, but there's pros and cons to both, Dion.
Oh, yeah.
So, yeah.
Absolutely. It's just like anything. There's good and bad to it. Okay, so a couple more rapid fire questions. Break it up a little bit. What's your favorite sport?
Football. I'm a Big Ten college football fanatic.
Okay. All right.
I'm an alumnus of Indiana University. I'm a Hoosier.
Okay.
And when it comes to Big Ten college football, there's nothing better.
Okay. Do you watch NFL at all?
Oh yeah, football. I watch any football, but I'm
making sure. Okay.
Yeah,
Bears or Colts?
When it comes to pro, I just had somebody ask me about the baseball season started, whether I was a Cubs or White Sox fan. Doesn't really make me any difference on either one, except when it comes to my Indiana Hoosiers.
Okay.
So that's me. I'm a big football fanatic. I'm an avid golfer. I don't know how good I am with golfing, but I do try to get out and golf quite a bit as well too.
All right. When you were a kid, before you wanted to be deputy sheriff and then sheriff, what did you want to be when you grew up?
I wanted to be a police officer for the LaPorte County Sheriff's Office as far back as I can remember. And I didn't want to go to the state police. I didn't want to go become a city police officer. I wanted to be a deputy sheriff with the LaPorte County Sheriff's Office as far back as I can remember, Dion.
That's awesome. Awesome. There are very few of us that end up doing what we really wanted to do. Kids. So that's
I grew up in the rural area of the county in Springfield Township, and when me and my friends would be outside playing or riding our bicycles or whatever, we'd see a sheriff's office patrol car go by, and you rarely saw them. Yeah. We were like awestruck, and that resonated with me with that. So yeah.
Good. Okay. I lost my page here. There we go. All right. So I know that you're against speed camera enforcement, which I'm really happy about personally, but how do you plan to use modern technology to improve the sheriff's department?
Well, modern technology has really come a long way over my 25-year career. And some examples are when I started the sheriff's office 25 years ago, we hand wrote our tickets. We hand wrote our reports. Or we would have to come on to station and use a typewriter to type our reports.
Right.
Now,
type it up, right?
Yeah, type it up. And now, these patrol cars are wireless hotspots. They've got the laptops in the cars. They have printers, scanners. They scan the back of your driver's license. It automatically downloads the information. They download the barcode on your vehicle registration, automatically downloads it all, and it's all sent to the cloud. It comes back from the cloud. They can run your driver's license in the computer. They can run your plates. So everything's there. And I think that makes things so much more efficient, which allows the officers to be more productive. Because I can remember I would have to drive into LaPorte, attempt to get some work done so I didn't get overly bogged down. But it seemed like no sooner I'd get into LaPorte, they'd give me a call to come back out of LaPorte. And again, that's very inefficient. These guys can do all their work right there in the car, go handle the next call. Response times are increased. And it's more efficient. And I'm all about technology and about making things easier and efficient to keep the officers out on the street, more productive, more visible. Visibility is key.
Nice. Okay, so I'm not going to get too in depth, but I'm aware that there is no Scared Straight program in LaPorte County. That's something that me personally, it has affected. And some people that I know, without getting into too many details, there was a child who would have benefited greatly from a Scared Straight program. We're not talking about a normal teenage angst kind of thing, but the boy needed to be scared straight. And when we reached out for resources to do that, we learned that we can't do that here. You guys can't put cuffs on kids. You can't put them in the back of a patrol car. Is that something that you think could be or should be changed, or are you happy with the way that it is? Because I know there are liabilities associated with it.
Yeah, I think that's exactly why we don't do it, is because there's liabilities to that. And I just don't know if that's the best possible outcome, is trying to scare this kid straight. Let's build a rapport with this kid. Let's not make him afraid of the police. Let's make him want to go to the police for help versus being afraid of the police and being turned off by the police. And, like going into these prisons and jails and that and scaring them straight there. Right. I can only speak on behalf of Indiana and LaPorte County. We hold people in the county jail that's awaiting trial, so they're still technically innocent until proven guilty. And which is critical because by being still innocent until proven guilty, they still have rights to privacy. So I don't want to go parading some people in when there's a young man or woman in the county jail that made a mistake and they're still awaiting their trial.
Right. That's actually a really good point. I'm glad you mentioned that. What would you recommend for parents that have a child that they believe is on the very wrong track? They potentially have already committed crimes or are in the process of committing crimes. And in their mind, Scared Straight would be a good option. But since it's not available here, what would you suggest that they do, or what resources would you suggest they utilize to kind of get this kid straightened out before they do end up going to juvie or wherever?
I think just trying to find a mentor for this individual, this child or this individual who's having issues. We're fortunate here in LaPorte County that we've got school resource officers in all of the school districts, sheriff's deputies as school resource officers in every single school district in LaPorte County except for Michigan City. They handle Michigan City. So there's a resource there to go to and maybe to talk to somebody and not have to worry about mom and dad listening to what they have to say. Go to a school counselor, find a teacher that will listen to you and just maybe take a minute to understand where this individual is coming from and why they're struggling and why they're having these issues. Especially with young adults and juveniles and children, we find out that there's a lot of underlying issues there. Whether it's life at home, dad drinks too much, or that there's not enough food in the home. There's a lot of underlying root causes that if we can just tackle some of these root causes, boy, it makes a world of difference. We don't have to send this juvenile off to juvie, as they say, or to the prison. This juvenile was stealing to eat because he's hungry or he needed a new pair of shoes. There's a lot of underlying issues. Let's just take a minute, listen, find out what the root cause is, and boy, we can make a world of difference.
Okay. All right. Okay. So this one here, I've seen a lot of posts recently about people that are both angry with and happy with so-called ghost lettering vehicles. The ones that you can only tell that they're a police officer or sheriff's department from a certain angle. Otherwise, it looks like a regular car. Do you think that that's a resource that we should be utilized here, or do you think not?
You know, I've always been a marked patrol car guy. I like to see the big brown and tan. We used to have brown and tan cars. Now it's just all tan cars. And the sheriff's star. And all. I think visibility is key. That helps reduce traffic.
Right.
With that being said, like our detectives have unmarked, and we've got a couple of unmarked cars out there. I guess my counterpoint to that would be if you're not doing anything illegal, then you shouldn't worry about whether there's a marked car, an unmarked car, or ghost lettering car out there. If you're just going about and doing what you're supposed to be doing and not breaking the law, then you shouldn't have to worry about what type of car is out there.
Right. Fair enough. Fair enough. Okay. So, Paul, we've got a couple of questions. I'm actually going to preface this. He asked if you support lawful carry. What I want to do instead is, I know where you sit on it, but I'm going to give you an opportunity to explain why so many police officers are maybe not against it, but have concerns about it.
Concerns about it. Absolutely. And that's a good point. You know, first of all, I'm a pro Second Amendment guy. You can come to my house and I've got my guns and everything else. And I'm a pro Second Amendment guy. And I truly believe that the Second Amendment is there and that the right to bear arms is at the top of the list being Second Amendment and not like a Fourth Amendment or an Eighth Amendment or anything like that. Because our forefathers really thought that was important. I would be more in favor of a constitutional carry if it was nationwide. And with that, you know, a constitutional carry may be good down what I call the donut counties around Indianapolis when you don't have an individual crossing state lines.
Right.
You know, they're
very close to
staying in Indiana.
Yeah.
But what about us border counties? You know, we got, Michigan borders us and we're not too far from Illinois. How is this individual going to be affected that, he's in Indiana carrying his gun legally and just, kind of forgets he's got it on him or whatever, or just out of habit, because we all do it. We go to New Buffalo or we go to Niles, Michigan. Oh, crap. You get stopped and you have your gun. And that's going to lead to so much bigger issues and problems with the reciprocity on going back and forth across state lines. And that's why I would see that like to be more of a national constitutional carry than second. And my second concern is I think there's a little bit of a safety issue there by having a permit, because when I run Dion's driver's license or whoever's driver's license, they're going to tell me that Dion has a concealed carry permit. Well, now I know Dion's legal. If he's got a gun in the car, no harm, no foul. Right. If now there's no way to check that to see if Dion is legally to carry it or if he's breaking the law, there's no way to check that now, because in order to run that, what we call criminal history, there's got to be supporting documentation. I just can't run Dion's criminal history just because. I've got to have a criminal offense behind it, not a traffic offense. Right. It's got to be a criminal offense to run Dion's criminal history. And that's the only way I'm going to be able to tell whether you can carry that gun or not. So there's just, I don't know if I'm just in favor. That's probably more of the police officer in me. And I was speaking to an individual. They says, "Oh my God, you're against it. You're not a Republican." Well, yeah, I am, and I can still be a Republican, and we can agree to disagree. And I think that's where we've gone as society. We have trouble agreeing to disagree, and it's okay to disagree. Let's have a respectful, professional, friendly conversation. And if we don't agree on it, no harm, no foul. I'm not going to hold it against you. That's your opinion. I had an individual. I know I'm getting off topic here a little bit.
No, by all means,
I had an individual reach out to me over an issue that's been kind of occurring in the county for some years with some of the sand mining issues. And he reached out to me and says, "I'd like your opinion on this." I gave him my opinion. He says, "Well, you're wrong." And I says, "What?" He says, "Yeah, you're wrong." I said, "Wait a minute. How can my opinion on something be wrong? It's my opinion." Right. But he just told me I was wrong. And I said, "Okay." It's one that it's okay to disagree. And you don't have to to be a Republican or Democrat, you don't have to be 100% in line with every single person's or beliefs and policies and stuff. And it's okay to, to disagree with this thing, but still support this thing. Agree with this. And I think that's where we're losing a lot of touch in that. And I think the country as a whole, not just here, country as a whole has become so polarized.
Oh,
absolutely. Because if you don't agree with me on 10 out of 10 things, then you don't,
right.
When it's okay to disagree.
You don't love freedom just because, you have a slightly different opinion, which I think is really important to point out to people that however you may personally feel as a police officer, as a deputy sheriff about constitutional carry, you're sworn to uphold that.
Correct.
So it's not like you're going to suddenly get into office and say, no, you can't do that here.
Right.
It's the law.
It's the law.
Right.
So it's constitutional.
Right. And I think that is an important distinction because I've had that discussion with people before about constitutional carry and the bill that passed. And but the one thing is, and I do believe that there are some refinements that should be made to the bill. I do think that there are certain things that we could do to make it safer for police officers without infringing on people's rights. But that's something for another time.
Yeah.
But it's
we can probably spend 2 days just discussing that.
Just on that.
Easily.
Yeah. Okay. So one of the things that's kind of controversial, I guess, as far as your race goes, because I'm going to go ahead and bring this out here. The main difference that I've seen with experience being separate, the main difference that I've seen as far as platform goes between you and your Republican challenger is dress code. That I've heard several people mention that, this other person is unhappy with the dress code. You think this about the dress code. So I'm just going to let you say, are you happy with the current Sheriff's Department dress code? If not, what would you change? If so, why do you love it?
Well, I guess I'm happy with it.
Okay.
We try to strive to be a professional organization, and if you allow the hens to run the hen house, then what kind of professionalism, structure, organization are you going to have there? Unfortunately, we're a paramilitaristic organization. That there's got to be some command and control and structure there, and you just can't let these guys and gals run the roost.
Right.
There's got to be some structure. There's got to be some professionalism there. With that being said, there was nothing more I hated and to be in long sleeves when the day got to be about 80 degrees in the spring, and there you are stuck in long sleeves, or vice versa. With that being, the men and women are adults, intelligent individuals. They can make choices for themselves, and I believe that. And I think anyone will tell you that me as chief deputy, I've really expounded the bounds and really expounded the dress code policy, so to speak, when it comes to long sleeves, short sleeves. If we're going to have a streak of nice weather, if we're going to have a streak of cold weather, put your long sleeves on. If it's going to be 75 for the next 4 days, put your long sleeves on. I've been always easy going with that. No harm, no foul. But I think there's a heck of a lot bigger issues that are tackling the sheriff's office, tackling LaPorte County, tackling our society than dress code.
Yeah, absolutely. We're going to wrap up. We're at the hour mark, but there are a couple more things that I really, if you have a few more minutes, a couple more things that I really want the answers to. If you're okay.
Sure.
Okay, great.
Yeah, sure, absolutely.
What is one piece of equipment that you would like to see your department have? If cost wasn't a factor, if the council said, yeah, you can have it, what's one piece of equipment that you'd be like, yeah, give me?
And here's the deal, and I'll say, because there's guys that will tell you this, I'd love to have a helicopter.
Right. I've always have one?
I've always wanted to learn how to fly, and I've always had a kind of like a passion for helicopters. I think they're cool for whatever reason.
Yeah.
So
they're amazing, but they're also super useful
super useful, but they're also super expensive
They are
too.
expensive.
So
They are. Yeah, they are expensive.
if I had an open checkbook where money was not an issue, I think we'd have a helicopter at the LaPorte County Sheriff's Office.
That's all. Yeah, I could see that. Okay, yeah, I gotta give you that one. That was a good answer there. Okay, so how do you think that the relationship is with local departments, and is there a way we could improve it? And as far as like the towns, the Michigan City, LaPorte, stuff like that here in the county.
Well, there's always room for improvement with no matter what we do. You should always be striving to improve, to make yourself better, make your relationship better, make your department better. But I will say that over the last 25 years that I've been involved, we've got great working relationships with the department. Again, when I started, there was a lot of that old school mentality, and I was told, you don't talk to those guys, you don't do this, you don't do that. And, I got hired on at the sheriff's office. A couple of guys I went to school with got hired on at the Michigan City Police Department. A couple other guys I know got hired on at the LaPorte. And we're like, well, we still know each other. We're still friends. We grew up together. And because of your guys' issues, we're not going to not talk to each other.
Right.
So we kind of started really forming these relationships and forming these bonds and realized that, hey, we're all here to do the same job, same team. Because criminals and lawbreakers, they don't know do they care about jurisdictional lines, a line on a map. They're going to go here to commit the crime. They're going to go here to do this. I think we can accomplish a heck of a lot more and get a heck of a lot more done if we communicate and collaborate and work together versus trying to work against each other. Things will just go so much better.
Absolutely. So, got a couple questions. LaPorte doesn't have a helicopter. I think
we don't.
Wants a helicopter. No, we don't have one. But this person said, "Mike, drones offer a lot of the same benefits as a copter."
Absolutely, and that's a good point because we do have a drone program in which we do have a couple of drones on the department, and we've got some certified and trained operators who do operate our drone program. Our drones have all come from grants or donations. They haven't cost the taxpayers any money.
Okay.
In regards to that, so that's good. Good program.
And they're not armed, right? They don't have.
No, they're not armed. But again, that's we were talking earlier, Dion, about technology. That's another great example of where technology makes things better for us in law enforcement.
Absolutely. Okay, so I got a couple more questions. I got a lot more, but we're gonna cut them short. Hopefully, after the primary, we have you back on so that we can get you.
Absolutely. If it wasn't for you for cutting me off, we'd probably be here till 6 o'clock in the morning.
Oh,
we could just be having dialogue and everything.
Yeah.
I could talk forever. My wife accuses me that.
Sure talk for hours.
Yeah, my wife accuses me of that all the time. Just you talk to anybody.
That's good though. That's good. Okay, so hold on. First of all, what's your favorite thing about LaPorte County?
I think it's the people of LaPorte County. I mean, I say that because we live in a weird geographical location in the United States. We're a very diverse county. We're on a good day with traffic good, you're 45 minutes from the third largest city in the United States. And a lot of people don't appreciate the good and the bad that comes along with living to the third largest city. You get an individual that lives maybe in Kansas or Kentucky or something, and they're not close to these big, large metropolitan areas, New York, Los Angeles, Chicago. There's good that comes with it, but there's bad that comes with it. But you get in southern LaPorte County and you've been there on the campaign trail, it becomes very rural and agriculture. So,
absolutely.
And it's a very diverse county. We've got cities, LaPorte, Michigan City, we've got the small towns, but I think we got a good group of just people who truly care. And I say that because we, as one, and it's in the emergency services aspect, we get a lot of great community support and really stand behind our emergency services, whether it's the fire departments, EMS, police department, sheriff's department. There's a lot of, the citizens of LaPorte County take ownership and pride in their emergency services. And they'll be some of the first ones to come to the defense and stand up and say, not here in LaPorte County. And we saw that a couple years ago when we had some of the protests that was going on. And we had the protest in Michigan City that ended up down by the Lighthouse Mall. And we saw that because we know for an exact that the local citizens, although they were protesting, they were peaceful,
Yes.
but they weren't causing any problems. They weren't trying to cause harm. They weren't trying to destroy property.
Right.
It was people that came from within the outside into our community that were causing the problems, that were
Yes.
throwing the rocks, that were destroying property. So
Yep.
there's a lot of pride and ownership by the citizens here, and that's what I like.
So that actually, I'm glad you brought up the difficulty and positives of being so close to Chicago, because in 2020, when I ran for Congress, I talked to a lady. I can't remember her name. I wish I could, because I'd love to give her the credit she deserves for this information. But it came to my attention that at that time, I don't know if it's still the case, but at that time, Lake County was #1 for human trafficking, at least in Indiana, if not the region. I was shocked. I had no idea it was that prevalent there. That has to kind of bleed over to LaPorte County, just like some of the crime from Chicago and stuff like that. We get the gangs. But at the same time, we have such a hometowny feel in LaPorte County. Like you said, we have our urban areas, but we have these vast stretches of rural. And it has to be difficult for a department that is funded by a primarily rural county to deal with big city crime.
Big city issues, yeah.
Yeah.
You're absolutely right, and that's a good point because we have Interstate 94,
Mhm.
we have the Indiana Toll Road, we have the
Right.
South Shore Line, and those are all bringing stuff in and out of the county. And I've said it before, LaPorte County sits between Chicago, Grand Rapids, Detroit, Indianapolis, Cincinnati, Columbus, Ohio, sits right in the middle of those big metropolitan cities, and we're right in the middle of all that. So it does bring a lot of big city problems into a small community. And, as taking some of the classes that I've taken throughout the United States and talking to some of, guys who are like from Chicago PD or New York PD, at the end of the day, when we're all just kind of sitting around sharing stories, it's funny because whether you're from New York Police Department, Chicago Police Department, LaPorte County Sheriff's Office, or a small two-man department in the middle of nowhere, we all share the same stories. Mm-hmm. It's like I can close my eyes and picture that story that he's telling because we've all experienced it. And I had an old Chicago copper tell me once, he says, we don't deal with anything different that you deal here in LaPorte County. We just deal with it on a little more basis. A little more regularly, but it's same problems no matter where you go. So.
Yeah, I agree, and that's what I mean. It's really hard to deal with big city problems with a very rural county budget, I'm sure.
Yeah, and the worst thing we can do is put our head in the sand and act like it's non-existent. That's the worst thing you can do with it. Yeah,
I agree. Okay, 2 more. And then I'm done. Once you get elected, assuming you get elected, right? One of the things that's probably going to happen in the first term, if not second term, if you get reelected, 4 to 8 years, there's talk that we're going to need a new jail. Mm-hmm. Sheriff's going to play a big part in making the new jail, picking the location, helping to do the research, all the things that go with it. That's a lot. It's a lot. What are some of the things that you want the new jail to have or to be?
You're right. The next sheriff is going to be tasked with the discussions of a new jail. And I'm not saying we need a new jail next year or the following year.
Talking about
but let's be responsible and start planning and preparing for when that day comes.
Yeah.
A jail ages like dog years. Every 7 years, for every year that it's in operation, it ages 7. And that's because it's a 24-hour, 365-day facility. Yep. You've got 350 inmates in there that don't want to be there, nor do they care about the property, and they're not going to take care of it. So it ages immensely. The jail was originally built in 1971. So do the math and then times that by 7. But, they remodeled it in 2002, so that was 20 years ago. Well, if it ages 7 years for every year, that's 140 years just in the new part that's considered age. So you're absolutely right. I would like to see it on a all one level surface, not this 3 or 4 stories that we have. And it's going to have to be moved from the downtown of LaPorte. The current location is landlocked.
Yeah.
You can't expand. You can't go up anymore. You can't go out to the side. It's a very inefficient facility because of the different levels versus a spread out all on one level facility.
Right.
But let's start planning and preparing for that now, and maybe start getting some land acquisition. A good place would have been maybe kind of out by the Summit Farm.
Yeah.
Between Michigan City and LaPorte, the 2 big communities, and it's more of in the northern part of the county. But that being said, now a drive from a patrol officer from the town of La Crosse is increased now. So there's nothing easy, but there's some dynamics to that.
Well, like for example, my wife Liz, she had mentioned, she's like, well, why don't we try to put it in the middle of the county? I said that is an option. However, most of your arrests are generally, statistically, numerically, are Michigan City, LaPorte.
In the northern part of the county.
Yeah, because that's where the population is. The higher the population, the more arrests you're going to have. So these are all things
and then we get that whole, well, I don't want it in my backyard.
Of course. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we have to have it, just not here. We can
not in my backyard. Find someplace else. So.
Yeah. So my last question for you, as relating to you yourself, and then we'll tell people how to find you and how to donate and all the things that they need to know about you. If the federal government outlawed certain types of models of firearms, i.e., the so-called assault rifles, or even pistols, there have been some crazy legislative attempts to restrict the Second Amendment. If the federal government suddenly said, hey, we passed this bill and it applies to you, it doesn't matter what anybody else says, are you going to ever go door to door and seize citizens' firearms because the federal government said those are wrong?
Absolutely not. That is just absolutely just, the Second Amendment doesn't differentiate between assault rifles or pistols. It says the right to bear arms. Point. There is no, well, you can have a right to bear a musket, or you have a right to bear a pistol, or you have a right to bear a shotgun. It doesn't tell you that. It just says a right to bear arms. It doesn't list what kind of arms it is. And again, going back to the office of sheriff, it's a constitutional office and uphold to protect the Constitution, not the political climate in Washington, D.C. So absolutely not. Nope.
Thank you. I greatly appreciate that. Let people know where they can find you, website, Facebook, whatever, and where they can donate. Because as a candidate, I can tell you, it matters. Money matters. It shouldn't, but it does. It does matter.
It does matter. And running, ads, advertisements, signs. A candidacy is very expensive. I'm learning that. I can be found on Facebook at Ron Heeg. Give me a like button or give me a share button, and that's fine. I can be reached at my email at heeg4sheriff@gmail.com, or I can be reached at my personal cell phone number. Give me a call, give me a text. Don't call me at 2:00 in the morning because I'm sleeping like everyone else.
Yeah, Paul.
Shoot me a text, and my number is 219-608-1004. If by chance I don't answer my phone, leave me a message, and I will get back to you. So I don't have a website, so to speak. I think that's kind of outdated nowadays, especially with Facebook and everything. So if anybody wanted to donate to the campaign, I would truly appreciate that. You can make a check out to Ron Heeg for Sheriff, and you can mail it to the address 5161 North Cameron Drive, LaPorte, Indiana, 46350.
Awesome. Thank you so much for coming on to the show. We greatly appreciate it. And if someone is inspired by this or you, how can they find out more or join the LaPorte County Sheriff's Department?
Oh, it's real easy. Exactly. You can shoot me an email at the sheriff's office with my work email at rheeg, RHEEG at lcso.in.gov. Give me a call in the office, 219-326-7700. My extension is 2335. Or if you're interested in applying, go to our website, www.laportecountysheriff.com. There's a link tab there where you can get yourself an application, and we'd love to have you come on board. Absolutely. We're always looking for good men and women to join the sheriff's office. Join us, because I'm no spring chicken anymore, especially in the world of a police officer. I'm considered a dinosaur and an old timer now, and it's definitely a young man's job. I was talking to a good older gentleman that I'm acquaintance with, almost kind of a mentor. And we were sitting around one day, and he says, Ron, how many years you got on now? And I says, well, I'm going to my 25th year. And he goes, wow. He goes, that's an anomaly. And I guess I didn't realize it. But most guys don't even see 20 years, or when they hit 20 years, they retire at 20 years. So the length of service as a police officer really drops down after 20. So, yeah. But, I enjoy my job. I love it. I look forward to going to work every day. I love my job. I mean, I have my days like everybody else, I think, in any profession does. But I don't feel like I've served 25 years, because it's gone by in the blink of an eye, because I thoroughly love and enjoy my job. And they say, if you love your job, you never work a day in your life. So
that's right.
Yep.
It was truly a pleasure having you on the show. I hope.
Well, thank you for having me.
People had their questions answered. I hope we get the opportunity to do it again. I'm trying to be as impartial as I can in the primary.
I expect nothing else.
Yeah. And so the exact same questions that were asked of Chief Deputy Heeg will be asked of the other candidate, which I'll talk about after, because it's rude. Stop doing that. You people who have the podcast, who have somebody on and talk about your next guest while they're still on the screen, that's rude. So once again, seriously, thanks for coming on. And it's such a critical election. A lot of people seem to forget that off years or non-presidential election years are so critically important, but they are.
Yeah, vote. I mean, I have voted in every election ever since I become of age to vote. I just feel it's important. And my wife always teases me I'm a little bit of a nerd, because election day is one of my favorite days. I truly get a sense of pride of going to the polls and voting. I truly feel that my vote is making a difference. And I think it's important to vote, whether it's a presidential year or not. So get out and vote. Vote for who you want,
Yeah, absolutely.
Yep.
It does. Become educated about the candidate.
Become educated.
I will stick to that. It doesn't matter. Please don't go in there and vote for name recognition or somebody that you've seen their sign and you know nothing about. Learn about the candidates. Go in there and vote for the person who stands up for the values that you have.
Yeah, absolutely.
So once again, thanks a lot. I appreciate it. I'm going to pop you off the screen here and
no problem.
What's coming up.
Yep, you guys have a good night. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, Chief Deputy Ron Heeg. He's running for LaPorte County Sheriff, and it's so absolutely, I cannot stress it enough how critical the sheriff is. Having a really good candidate, a really good sheriff, because they are the final line. They're the line in the sand between government overreach and your home. I mentioned it before. Off years are not take a break from voting. They're just as, if not more critical than the presidential candidate. Look, the reality is the president has some power, but they generally, with the exception of the inflation, don't affect you on a day-to-day basis the way that a sheriff candidate will, the way that your local government does. So we've got some great guests coming up tomorrow night. We have Liz Bergeron, who's running for county commissioner. Yeah, that's my wife. Yeah, I'm a little biased, but we're going to have some different questions this time. And I think you're going to want to tune in, because there are some interesting developments with the race. And again, there's so many critical things that people need to be aware of this election. And then the following day after tomorrow, we're going to have the other Republican candidate on for sheriff, Andrew Morse, and he is going to be asked the same questions if I can get through them a little faster. I really enjoy talking to my guests. As you guys have noticed, we could go on for hours and hours. And back when I first started doing this, we did. Some of my interviews were 2.5 hours long. That's a little long. But we get into conversations, and obviously most of us, we're far more alike than we are different. We share so many things. But as always, thank you very much for joining me tonight. I greatly appreciate your time. God bless you. God bless Indiana. And God bless the United States.